Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? I certainly hope that all of you are doing just fine. And I tell you what, I hope that all of you have had a very good day, a very good week, and by now, considering that we're at the end of May, a very good month. I tell you, because May surely did go by fast, didn't it? Man, I tell you, the time is just flying. It is getting away from us. But that's all right. I mean, because, hey, it's just a blessing to be here to see it. It really is. And so I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you very much for tuning in today. I really appreciate it. And I would like to welcome all of you to another episode of TJ's Topics. That's right. And of course, you know who I am. I am TJ. And it is such a pleasure to be with you. I consider it a joy, an honor, and a privilege to be able to come into your presence on any given occasion. Now, today I have a little topic that I would like to share with you. One that actually dropped in my spirit. Well, it's been a few weeks now, and it came to me as a result of something that happened at work. And my emotional reaction to it, a situation, which I won't really go into detail. I mean, it's nothing major, it was more of an emotional thing and a mental thing than anything else. And so I'm not going to bother you with all the details of that. I'm going to simply get into today's topic, which is there is no reason to be mad at dust. That is my topic for today. There is no reason to be mad at dust. Now, listening to this, you may wonder, what is that all about? And how can someone get mad at dust? Well, I can tell you this. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the first 3 chapters of the book of Genesis in the Bible, particularly Genesis chapter 3, verse 19, which tells us that by the sweat of your brow, meaning that by the work of our hands, what we do on a daily basis in order to earn a living for ourselves, you will eat your food until you return to the earth, to the ground. For it is from dust you came, and to dust you shall return. And we ourselves are dust. We are living, walking, breathing, talking specks of dust. From an earthly perspective, that is. But spiritually, we are much greater than that. So, how can we be mad at dust? Well, I just gave you part of the answer. Since we are dust, from a physical and an earthly sense, we get mad at each other over some of the pettiest things. Sometimes it can be some of the most trivial matters. I mean, stuff that really doesn't make any sense. And yet we find ourselves getting pissed off at one another on account of that. And considering the fact that we are dust, that our bodies, these earthly temples in which we dwell for a moment in time, are made up of earthly matter, our organs and the tissue, muscles, bones, skin, all of this that it takes to form us as people. These materials that we were formed out of were only meant to last for a season, primarily on this earth. They're our earth suits. You may have heard that term before. Some may call them meat suit, but they're meant for us to dwell in upon the earth for the duration of time that we're allotted to be here. And once we shed these earth suits, then the true nature of us, the spiritual part of us, the soul, it returns, because remember, everything is energy, and energy never dies. It can neither be created nor destroyed, but it can be transformed and go into a different realm and recycle. That's energy. And energy is good for everything. And everything is energy. But right now we're talking about dust. And that's what we are from a physical perspective, an earthly perspective. So now, I just shared with you Genesis chapter 3, verse 19. Now, let's go down to the next part, which is a scientific perspective. Scientifically, the statement highlights the fact that every living organism, including humans, is composed of elements and components derived from the earth. The earth provides the necessary resources such as air, water, and nutrients for life to thrive. And lastly, the spiritual and philosophical perspective. Many spiritual and philosophical traditions, including Judaism, Hinduism, and Buddhism, view the earth as a source of life and a place for connection. And that's what this planet is. We all connect with each other in some form or fashion on this earth. And we have to do so physically because we are physical beings. But how many of you know that sometimes these earthly connections can cause friction amongst us? These connections that we share, they can sort of wreak havoc on our lives if we're not careful. You know, getting involved with certain people whom we really ought not get involved with. And you know, no two people see eye to eye on everything. Sometimes you have folks that are cross you in a way that you would have never imagined they would. You know, they have the worst attitudes. They have such god-awful personalities. And I tell you, they don't know how to talk to people. They'll say pretty much anything to you that they know will piss you off. They'll try you, and they want to see exactly how many buttons they can push before you fly off the handle and you jump down their throat or get real close to choking them to death or something, you know. But the thing is, we're humans, we have emotions, and if we're not careful, sometimes we allow those emotions to get the best of us. And that's not a good thing. You know, we have to be mindful of how we treat one another and how we talk to each other. Be careful how we approach each other, because you can approach a person the wrong way and you can say the wrong thing to them. You can catch a person in a bad mood, and you don't know what people are going through at a particular time either. You know, like someone could have just lost a loved one, or could have just lost a job, or you know, have experienced some sort of traumatic event in their life, and then you go and start picking with them, you know, saying old crazy stuff to them, thinking that it's not going to affect them. But little do you know that those few words that you spoke out of turn to them, not knowing their emotional or mental state at that particular time, could very well be the thing to trigger them and cause them to spiral out of control. Man, so that is what I'm talking about. However, when you consider the fact that we are dust, all of us, we came from it and we are on our way back to it. There are some cases where we really shouldn't allow people to get under our skin. You know, people like to say stuff to us as a means of testing us just to see who we are and where our mind is. They want to see exactly how far they can go before we get extremely angry. And if we're not careful, we will get angry. And we could react in a very negative way. But once you get to the point where you realize that, you know, life is too short to walk around mad all the time for no reason and being upset with people all the time for some of the most trivial things, stuff that just is not even worth the time or the effort to be angry with, then you learn how to let go of those sour emotions. You begin to cast those feelings aside, knowing that those people, though they may have meant something by what they said to you or even what they did to you, they're only dust. And just like you're here for a season, so are they. They won't be here forever. And that's one thing that really helped me along my journey. Over the past, well, I say a little more than a decade ago now, when I was working with this old man, he was pretty, well, not elderly, but you know, he was a lot older than me. He was close to being a senior citizen. Years ago at the junior high school where I was, it was very hard for me to deal with him. I mean, it was extremely difficult for me to deal with him on a daily basis. But I made it. I dealt with him for 7 years. And I had to learn how to tune out the way that he would talk to me and belittle me in front of everybody, especially the principal, you know, with whom he was best friends. And so now here we are, 10 years past the time when I left that school. The school no longer exists because they merged with another school. The principal has retired. And then the guy himself, the old man I'm telling you about, he retired a couple of years after they transferred me to another school. And here we are now. He's been dead for the last almost 3 years. He passed away a few years ago. And so at the time when I left the school, the number of years that he had left was in the single digits. They sure were. When I left that school in 2015, he had less than 10 years left to live. And yet I spent almost 10 years being mad at him. Because of the things that he would say to me and do to me and piss me off and stuff. And he pissed off a lot of people on campus. But I was much younger then. You know, I was in my 20s when I first started. And therefore I hadn't, you know, grown enough to know how to handle situations like that and people like him. But now that I'm half 90, 45, I'm more equipped to deal with stuff like that. And so I feel much better. And so I've learned not to allow people or certain things to get the best of me anymore. And so for that, I am grateful. And I hope that you all learn how to do the same thing if you haven't already. Don't allow people to get under your skin, because they will. Don't allow them to get the best of you and cause you to, fly off the handle and crack somebody's skull, and like I wanted to do to him years ago. But just realize that they're only people, and they're passing through here just like us. They won't always be a part of your life. You won't always have to deal with them, and they won't always be around you. And when you learn that, then the things that they say to you or even attempt to do to you won't have as much of an effect on you as they would have prior to coming into that knowledge. So, once again, there is no reason to be mad at dust, because from dust we came, and from dust your adversary came. That's the enemy being whoever that individual is that's picking with you. And we can be our own worst enemy as well. And guess what? That very enemy is on its way back to the dust. So I hope you understand that today. And if you do, then please let me know, okay? Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe and share with whoever you wish. And I want to thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of TJ's Topics. Please join me again next time. We'll have something else of interest to discuss as we move forward into the 6th month of the year, the month of June. I tell you, pretty soon this year will be half gone. 2025 is about to get up out of here after a while. This is Taryn Jerome Harris, reminding you that every round goes higher and higher. Certainly enjoyed being with you today. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.